You found it. Your home for the best content on your favorite team, the Fighting Tigers of LSU. Do us a favor. Subscribe to the channel. Leave your comments below. Be sure to smash that like button. One of the things Brian Kelly has done that I certainly, as a media member, am very much in favor of, but I think just for everyone who follows the program probably is in favor of, that we're all learning, is he's making his coaching staff available. By the way, today, Tuesday after practice, Mike Denbrock is going to be available to reporters. And Thursday, Matt House, the defensive coordinator, is going to be available. So we're going to get to hear from the coordinators about how it's going and with their specific position groups and sides of the ball. And so that's really cool. Well, we did get to hear already from Brian Polian, who not only is the recruiting coordinator, but he's also the special teams coordinator. And this is an interesting year for Brian Polian, because when Ed Orgeron was fired, Brian Kelly was hired, and he turned over the entire staff except Brad Davis. T-Bob and I were doing Scone and T, and after the staff was in place, we did this exercise where we went coach by coach through the entire staff. And we said, okay, is this an upgrade? Is it an improvement, or was the coach at this position on the old staff better? And literally every single spot was an improvement, except one, and it was special teams coordinator. I think Greg McMahon was the best hire that Ed Orgeron made during his time in Baton Rouge. And it reflected with what you saw from talent evaluation and how they performed, from, obviously Cade York being the best kicker that LSU's ever had, finding Avery Atkins as a walk-on from Auburn, Alabama. Cole Tracy, of course, from Assumption with the season he had in 2018. I mean, you all know the story by now. Zach von Rosenberg developing the way he did, never really missing a beat in the return game. He was phenomenal from the day that Ed Orgeron hired him to replace Bradley Dale Pivito. So I think Brian Polian has big shoes to fill, not only from Greg McMahon's position, but then also just think you're losing your specialists. I mean, Avery Atkins was your punter a year ago. He's gone. He also was your kickoff specialist a year ago. I mean, Cade York is the greatest place kicker this program has ever had. He's gone. So you're replacing all of your specialists. So that alone brings a giant question. When Brian Polian met with the media, he did update the battles for place kicker and punter.
The competition is not whole until we get to the summertime, when we add Jay Bramblett, when we add Nathan Divert, and we're going to add a young man by the name of Trey Finnison, who will join us as a preferred walk-on as a grad transfer from Northwestern. So I'm pleased thus far. I think Damian Ramos and Zeke Mata have done a good job. We've really, only in the last couple of practices, got together as a complete field goal unit. So we were in the installation phase, but they're doing a good job. I'm encouraged. We've been splitting reps. There's no starter. Is just evaluation right now and trying to put them into as many competitive situations as possible.
So Bramblett's the punter that's coming in from Notre Dame, the transfer, and Dibert is the freshman signee who will show up again on campus in June. The one guy who is here is a guy who signed a year ago, and that's Peyton Todd out of West Monroe. And the book on Peyton Todd, when he signed, if you ask coaches or scouts or anything like that, now I'm not going to pretend to know anything about punting other than kick the ball really far, is that kid can boom it, but you don't always know where it was going to go. Could he directionally kick? Controlling it, harnessing it was maybe the issue. Here was Brian Polian on Peyton Todd.
Peyton Todd's got a cannon. Obviously, he was coming off of surgery as a true freshman. He had an ankle surgery before he arrived. So, his true freshman year, I don't think he was quite whole. Avery did a great job of stepping in and filling that role. He's immensely talented. We just got to keep working on the fundamentals and keep getting used to us, and he's doing that, and it's a schematic change for him too, so that's a little different, but everybody's doing a good job.
So all of those jobs seem very much wide open. And you're bringing in transfers, both place kicker and punter, so guys who have experience, and then you also have signees who are scholarship players, and it's rare that you spend, air quotes, a scholarship on a specialist if they're not going to play. I mean, I remember when the Fergusons signed at LSU and Les gave them both scholarships. And there was this thought, like, why would you use a scholarship on a long snapper? Well, for 8 years, you didn't have to worry about an errant snap. For 8 years, like Reed Ferguson's, he'll tell you this, the first snap of Reed's career in 2013 was against UAB in Tiger Stadium. It was a 2013 season, and it was a high snap on a punt. He never, the rest of his career, never had another bad snap. And then Blake followed up for 4. So you had 8 years of never having to, was 8 years of never having to worry about a snap. Was it worth it for 2 scholarships? Absolutely. So typically, if you're going to give a scholarship to a specialist, they're going to play. But the other thing that was interesting, and I love to hear this from Brian Polian, and this was something that Les did in his era that I thought was very smart. And Nick Saban did it as well, by the way, was the best players play special teams, and that's going to happen again.
Our approach is you will see our best players out there. You'll see them on our coverage units because we believe that you have to cover kicks to win games. You got to cover punts, and you got to protect the punter. I mean, think back to the Green Bay Packers. They get a punt blocked, and they're out of the playoffs. I mean, you've got to be able to protect kickers. You got to be able to cover kicks to win games. And then we will, as it relates to personnel, there are spots where we will use our best players. And then there are roles for guys that will be 4-unit core special teams players that might be a backup on offense or defense, but will carve out a way to play winning football for us. And we view those players as starters. And really, that's what we're doing right now is we're evaluating the roster, trying to figure out who those guys are going to be.
It's a mindset for guys to want to play special teams. A lot of times when you get to a certain point in your career, you feel like you've graduated from special teams. But I've told the story before, and I'll tell it again. Remember, LSU was playing Ole Miss. I think it was 2010. I'm not exactly 100% sure on the year, but it was in Tiger Stadium. And it was a closer game than it needed to be. And LSU scored late in the game. And remember, Stephen Ridley went to Les Miles and said, I want to cover the kick. It's something Ridley had done early in his career. But it was just like, we're not going to screw this up in this moment. But you had guys that were bought in that wanted to be on those coverage units. And if that's your path to the field, and for so many of those guys, and it's one of the benefits of having a guy like Polian, who's got an NFL background, to say, this is a way to make sure you hang around in the NFL. Special teams a lot of times can be the differentiator. If you can cover kicks, if you can be an elite special teams player, you can hang around and catch a check in the NFL. So I like seeing your best players play special teams. Not necessarily your All-Americans returning punts. Been through that before. I didn't need Derek Stingley and his ACLs returning punts. I got plenty of athletic guys that can catch a ball and run. But on the coverage units, I agree. So what are some of the names? Who might we see on special teams?
Mike Jones has been fantastic. You can expect to see him on the punt team. He'll probably cover kickoffs. Greg Penn's been awesome. Fouché, Brooks have been fantastic. And then think about younger players. I'm really excited about what we've seen from Colby Fields. I mean, he's in the drill work, and what we're asking him to do is terrific. I really like Josh Williams. I mean, there's a guy that's a backup tailback that will most likely be a core player for us. You know, what can Jure give us as a big wide receiver? What can Gardner give us? What can Weeks give us, these new players into our program? That's what we're trying to evaluate right now. But we've been encouraged by a lot of the tape and a lot of what we're seeing on the field.
Mike Jones, Greg Penn, Joe Fouché, Greg Brooks. These are dudes that are going to be starting defensive players for you that are going to be covering kicks and punts. It's just a new day. I mean, it is an all-in, buy-in attitude right now with this team, and that's what they're trying to find. Look, I loved when Greg Brooks over the weekend tweeted, best decision of my life. Brian Kelly went out, had to add 17 mid-year enrollees, and so many of them were guys with ties to Louisiana, and this is why. He wants guys that aren't just trying to get to the league. Of course, everybody that plays at LSU is trying to get to the league. But he wants guys that want to be here, and are going to buy into his vision to what he's building here at LSU. It's what you have to have. Special teams is a big part of it. Win that phase of the game. It'll go a long way to LSU winning games this fall. Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact. And be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.